About 50 people waiting out there in the queue, and we appreciate your patience. We just finished up our production call talking with the first sergeants and the company commanders about how we're doing soft contracts. So that was a good talk. First sergeants, company commanders, and station commanders out there realizing some of the areas, and then eventually in that kind of waterfall start opening more and more stations for on-the-ground face-to-face interactions as they become safer and as the COVID threat goes down to a manageable level. And Sergeant Merrill is going to talk a little bit later about the COVID threat as we go through your frequently asked questions. But that was kind of one of the big things the Commanding General talked about. He had a variety of other questions, many of which we're going to try and reiterate today, like PCSing and talking about some of the stop-move things, right?
Roger, sir.
Okay, so we'll hit those today. We'll make sure that we're answering your questions. So thanks, everybody. My wife, Summer, is on the live chat. She is available to answer a lot of questions and to kind of get things back to myself. And over to my left, your right, off the camera because of social, and he's gonna have a piece in here to talk a little bit later and to give us a few talking points. And he is in the seat, he's helping solve problems for soldiers, and he's reaching out to families during this time. So that's a few things. We got a lot of great news stories to talk to you about. Since we last saw you, we did this program called Together While Apart. We've gotten over 95 meals from the Patriots, the Kraft Foundation, and the New England Patriots down there at Gillette Stadium to get help to veterans and to our family members and to some of our soldiers who needed that assistance. So that is a great thing. We put one of the first future soldiers, Private McDermott, to roll. She was having tremendous hardships. She was homeless, and her recruiters got online to get her brought to rolls. And we got her paid as a soldier and got her shipped off to basic training so that she can take care of her family. We've started doing this soft contract thing. So because we cannot go to the MEPS and process people, we've been going through all of the process virtually and getting people through every single step, including putting them to a reservation for a future job so that when COVID has decreased and we can go back to the MEPS, we can process these individuals. But the name of the game right now is really soft contracts. And so I've updated the mission for all of the stations and updated the mission for each of the companies so that they're working right now to see and get soft contracts built. So that is really what we're asking each of the recruiters to do, are to build these soft contracts virtually so that when the MEPS do reopen in a safer time, that we're able to get them down to the MEPS and get them in the Army and ship them off to training as quickly as possible. So there's some other great things that...
A total of 5 active duty future soldiers, and we have another 18 and 4 shipping out next week.
Okay.
So shipping is ramping up.
So we have a very, very good detailed checklist, and these people are shipping from the areas where the threat is an amber as a threat level, lower threat level, and they're able to, we're doing the quarantine of 14 days for them. We're taking them through a detailed checklist, and then we're getting them on their plane. They're jumping through MEPS at the hotel and going on the plane, flying off to basic training. And basic training is going to take good care of these recruits and these future soldiers. They're going to get them there, keep them safe, and put them through basic training. So that is a positive development. The Army is really gearing back up to start basic training again here real soon. As all of our future soldiers we are shipping this week, make it there, get in process, and get ready to rock and roll. You can see, off camera today, Sergeant Sizemore has got his mask on. Frank Love has his mask on. I would just remind everybody that changes to a lot of our military bases like Hanscom Air Force Base, Natick Military Reservation, it's called a military reservation, right? Natick
Labs.
Yeah, Natick Labs, whatever they call it, Natick. Sergeant Major Cleveland's gonna get on me after this. So her base, and then our base here at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard where the battalion headquarters sits. When you are outside or you are in close proximity to others, you are responsible to have a mask on you. And we're working personal protective equipment, PPE, for the entire battalion right now. So as stations start opening back up again for utilization, that they'll have masks, they'll have gloves, and they'll have
30,789 cases across the United States with over 45,600 fatalities. Right now, current projections with social distancing restrictions, they're going to start being lifted, across the country as, cases start to go down, people start to recover. So between 13 May and 7 June, we're looking to start coming back in from these red and black zones and start getting things back to somewhat of a new normal.
Yeah, and I think Maine and New Hampshire are the two states in our area of operations least affected. We expect New Hampshire to have hit their peak on the 21st of April, and Maine, they hit their peak on...
Each state has their own website, and we can get that out to to everybody that needs it. But they all have a website that shows all test site locations on where people can make appointments and go, and get set up to have a test. Let's see here.
So it says, we will be notified. How will we be notified of COVID-19 testing results? I think just visiting that website. And, we are not allowed, if somebody in the battalion, we have had 0 COVID cases in the battalion, thank goodness, and great job to all recruiters out there. But if we would have a positive COVID case in the battalion, I would not be able to release the name of the individual for personal identified information and rules between HIPAA. But we can check on those websites. Sergeant Merrill just mentioned the 4 CDC site, right? That was the 4 CDC sites?
Correct, sir.
And you can see what is going on in your area and the prevalency of COVID-19 positives in your area. We cannot give specific names of individuals who have tested positive. If you do not have the results of your test, stay in touch with your primary care manager, right?
Correct, sir. Stay in touch with them.
Stay in touch with them. Okay, so let's see. What question we want to go to next? So I'm going to hit, what are the Army talking points right now about COVID-19? So question number 51 from the frequently asked question chart of what you guys have sent in. What are the current Army talking points? Our recruiting operations have not stopped. We are doing recruiting through telework and through virtual means. We are staying very compassionate to the population, but we are reaching out positively and proactively now to high school age students who are about to graduate and to people who have talked to us before. So we are recontacting and reconnecting a lot of those individuals who have been interested in the Army before, and maybe their kind of interest waned off a little bit, and so we're reaching out to them right now. The United States Army Training and Doctrine Command is continuing to do sessions and continue to do training at their basic training bases. Their pipeline has slowed a little bit as they're putting safety and precautions in place, but they are still executing basic training and advanced individual training. Okay, so those are kind of the big Army talking points for this COVID-19 crisis. One of the big things that everybody needs to be aware of, the Army is putting out big talking points about what we're doing to assist. The Chief Staff of the Army was in Boston last Saturday. He came to Boston last Saturday and he gave coins to a bunch of Army reservists who are mobilized to support medical units in Boston and outside of Boston. He recognized a bunch of National Guardsmen who are also mobilized and supporting with legit. Also make sure that you know is that, we have a great team. Right now we have 0 COVID cases. We have people in quarantine because there are a few that have medical professionals who their spouses come in contact with a person who is positive for COVID, but they are in quarantine right now, and they are 100% healthy and doing really, really good. So those are the key points from the New England part. So that's question 51 and 52. And Sergeant Merrill, do you want to get into question 53, the hot topic, the Department of the Army stop move?
All right.
Okay.
So yes, the stop move has been pushed to 30 June. All right. So they're going to relook at it every 14 days after the 30th of June to see if they can open it back up to make sure that they're looking out for our best interest, our health, the health of us and our families with these stop moves. So yeah, unfortunately, it is 30 June now for that. As far as PCS moves go, we just got to work with the S1 and stay on top of them.
Yeah, so the next one is 55, question 55, but I want to jump back into if we have a person in the battalion who, I'm tracking all the folks who are due to PCS. I've got all the names right here in my book. The company commanders ran us through them. Names like, a lot of individuals who are going to be PCSing soon and they still want to PCS. and there's a financial hardship. There's an NCO down in Boston Metro that we just started working his exception to policy today. And so he's got some financial hardship. He wants to continue on with his PCS, and so we're going to get his packet together, get that up. That exception to policy gets signed off by the CG of United States Army Recruiting Command right now.
Correct.
So he's got that delegated authority. So we'll send those exception to policies up. My S1, she has the format. She sends it out to first sergeants, and first sergeants can help people through. If we have somebody that's coming to this command, and they're listening in today, like they're interested, Summer actually just called about that. She has spouses reaching out to her. And if they're coming to our command and they've been delayed, we can also work with the losing command. I would give an example of our first sergeant coming from Fayetteville Battalion, coming up to North Shore Company. First Sergeant Thompson.
Right.
Yeah. So First Sergeant Thompson, we're working to bring him up from Fayetteville Battalion and get him up here because he's going to be taking over to come up here. But if there are others who are coming to this battalion, reach out to us, let us know what your status is, and we will keep you on the gains roster. And if you're having financial hardship, you could push that exception to policy up through your existing chain of command, or if you're an essential personnel like First Sergeant Thompson was, we're going to really push that up as an ETP, exception to policy for mission essential personnel. Okay, so the next question was, what if my family has been diagnosed with terminal illness, has passed away, how can I go see my family member or pay respects? So this is leave under emergency conditions. And that question is a great question because it literally just happened last week. One of our NCOs had a close family member pass away. And so we got his leave form together, his DA form 31. We got his letter kind of saying why he needed to do this. He conducted a risk assessment showing how he's going to travel to the place he was going to, which was several hours travel, like a good distance. And he did what's called a deliberate risk assessment worksheet. I signed off on that. We got the whole packet together. We sent the packet up as a leave and emergency conditions request. Colonel Cushing verified in block 12 of the DA form 31. And the commanding general gave us approval in the block 13. And that NCO, we had gotten that turnaround in about 2 days, and he was departing the day after, and he made it to the funeral for his close relative. So if somebody has, it all started with a Red Cross message though. The first piece of leave and emergency conditions or going to see a close family member that is very, very sick right now, like say they have COVID or something else like that, get that Red Cross message. Once I have a Red Cross message, like Mr. Love, who's off camera over here, Sergeant Merrill, myself, we can process that emergency leave request. So that is definitely in the realm of possibilities. And it can go pretty fast, but it does require a little bit of paperwork. The S1 has that format, and we've been able to do it successfully. So just let us know. Okay, I'll cover question 56.
Okay.
Question 56, I have a retirement going through, and I'm supposed to start transition leave in May with them approving some of these, because the NCOs that have approached me have said, I don't want to transition during this period when a lot of folks are out of jobs, some other things are happening, it's tough to move, moving companies are being delayed, etc. So that is a 41A7 requesting an extension or a deferment of your retirement date. The S1 has the format. The S1 has been working with first sergeants on at least 3 packets, and we can still have that. If, for instance, we have 2 NCOs who still want to retire on time, and their retirement date is coming up pretty close for their retirement leave. If you have an approved retirement date and you have your retirement leave in, you do have to submit an exception to policy right now to be allowed to start your leave and to go on your retirement leave and to go to your home of record or to your future retirement destination. One of the first sergeants I'm referring to, he started his ETP packet today, and we should be able to get that up to the brigade commander probably by the end of the week. Okay. I have a situation where I need to drop off a family member or pick up a family member outside of the local leave area due to extreme circumstances. How do I handle this? Is this an emergency leave situation? No, this is not an emergency leave situation. This is a regular leave situation, but I do have to submit this up to the Deputy Commanding General of USAREC. So we have a few cases where we had a soldier who has custody of his children, and he needs to take them back to his to his ex-wife. And so if you need to do something like that, or if you want to take, like if you're a Geo Bachelor and you heard last week the CG said that Geo Bachelors going to their home of record is not going to be approved at his level, but you want to get your kids linked to leave that I mentioned a second ago, that'll be signed off by me. I can help you out through that process. I've done a bunch of them already with company commanders, and then we'll try and push to get that approved. Leave area still is in effect, but this is really an exception to policy done through a 4187. And it is not considered emergency leave. I know it's a very important situation. I know there may be some legal cases where you have to get the child back by a certain date. We gotta have those in our 4187 as justification. Boom, 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 and then that'll be part of our 4187 that we'll send up. Okay. Do you want to hit the next one?
Yeah.
Question 58, Sarmara.
So if you're scheduled to move on or about 30 June and you haven't terminated your lease yet, should you? No, do not terminate your lease, all right? If you have all...
There's also prohibitions against evicting people from homes right now.
Right.
Now don't take that to mean that you don't have to pay your rent, because it says there are some things that they can protect us from getting evicted, and for if you're having an issue with your rent, that you can work it out with your landlord. But eventually all rent payments will come due. I mean, that's just like a lot of these things are loans from the government. I think besides that stimulus check, which is supposed to be, some people are getting in the mail now. I haven't gotten my stimulus. I don't know. Did you guys get your stimulus check?
No.
From the COVID stimulus check? Summer and I were checking it. I've heard some people are getting it.
I have it, sir.
You got it?
I have, sir.
Sergeant Sizemore got it.
Sorry, sir.
Must be doing something that I'm not doing.
Same here.
I think I don't know. Now for a person who was deploying overseas, and we just got an answer back that his gaining unit wasn't ready to receive, and they said it's denied for now. And so, like those situations like that are, like there's a higher level than us to approve some of these actions. So make sure you wait for all the appropriate approvals before you move out of a house or break a lease.
And it's the same thing if you've already got a lease agreement on the other end on your gaining station. Contact that landlord or whoever the leasing agent is and just let them know that you've been moved. So see if they can break the lease for you.
Yep. So that's question 59 and question 60. Number 61. I've done all the above, and I don't think it's going to shake out. I'm afraid it's going to cost me a lot of money. What are other options? Submit the ETP, right?
Submit the ETP. HRC is working to cut orders or amend orders, so we have adjusted arrival dates or departure dates.
They're likely to approve right now.
Right.
And we've shown that we're going to be safe about getting you PCS'd. We've shown that you have financial hardship, and you can kind of list out, like, not too much of your financials, but kind of like some of the bottom line up front stuff. Those are the financial hardship ETPs that are getting approved.
Correct, sir.
Okay, so that's a good question. Question 61. That was interesting. Okay, so we got. So I'll hit hardship duty pay. Okay, so hardship duty pay for restricted orders movement. Question 35. Can I receive hardship duty pay? So at this time, there are 2 ALARAC messages that outline what the hardship duty pay rules are. ALARAC message 026-2020, 026-2020, and 029-2020. If you think that you may qualify for the hardship duty pay restricted order of movement, consult that ALARAC message. Read these, but the overseas cannot take him right now because they're worried about having COVID come to their area of operations, and it would be catastrophic for them. And then there's only one other individual who has gotten approved for this hardship duty pay. So if you believe into us, question 36, I'll take that one too. Sorry, Merrill.
Yes, sir.
So I'd like to defer, extend, or delete my PCS due to these issues that we've mentioned above. Will I be able to report to my following assignment, or will my orders be deleted? Okay, that's a very good question. That question is, as I was mentioning, we have in our book a bunch of people that have come up online. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. This applies to at least 16 individuals in the battalion who've already opened up dialogue talking about PCS. So right now, if you defer or you extend with us, that does not mean your current orders are going to be deleted. Your current assignment is going to be deleted. But as you build your 4187, that personnel action, like, you need to talk to your branch manager and to your strength manager. And you are going to be allowed to extend in our battalion because maybe the PCS is difficult to do. You're stabilizing this battalion during this COVID crisis, and that you can keep your orders for your gaining unit, but it's just extended out with us. And then you're going to PCS at a later time. So those individuals, so let me just read you what the S1 gave me. So you have to make sure you attach and input your justification on a DA form 4187. For deletion, if you're deleting an assignment, then you have to state in your 4187 you want to delete your assignment. And your assignment, the gaining unit, it'll be gone after it goes all the way through the process. If you want to defer, which means that hold it up, you want to hold up and PCS out of here, permit change of station later, you'll be able to have your orders amended with the new report date. So you'll be able to keep the report date, and Human Resources Command and United States Army Recruiting Command will be required to report or talk with us and with them about your deferment. Okay, extension. It will depend on how long you want to extend, but if your extension is no longer than 9 months, if it's longer than 9 months, it's likely that your next assignment will be deleted. So if you're going to stay, if you want to add on, like say I was leaving next month, I have to get another assignment 10 months from now. But if you're extending 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, then we can really work out trying to keep your orders. So I think that that's a good question. And question 37, I'll get that one too, Sarmero. Why can't I continue my PCS? Right now, the Army has put out stop move guidance, as Sarmero said. The ALARAC messages, again, 26 and 31. ALARAC 26, they're trying to keep force comm units healthy and kind of contained, and they don't want people coming and moving all over the place. And that's why they're evaluating it every 14 days, like you said earlier.
Correct, sir.
But given the way COVID's going, it might be a case-by-case basis. Okay? So that's that question 37. Do you want to talk question 49, Sergeant Merrill? The status of schools?
Yes, sir. All right, status of schools. So right now, this is education, right?
Education.
Families.
Yeah.
Okay.
Families.
So states, they are starting to look at their closures as well. I believe Massachusetts came up with that as well. But you can go to the state's education website and get updates on each individual state from where you are.
And if you go to our page, we have in the frequently asked questions, we have the links to all 4 of those pages. And like Sergeant Merrill lives in New Hampshire. I live in Maine. Sergeant Sizemore lives down in Massachusetts. So down that way at least, right? Yeah. And then we got Mr. Love. He lives down that way as well. He's on the New Hampshire border. We're all feeling this. My kids are not going back to their elementary school for the rest of the year. And Summer, my wife, has been tremendous on this stuff, and I know a lot of the spouses out there, and I know a lot of our recruiters have been involved in helping educate their kids too. But if you got a high school age student, make sure you're looking on the Department of Education website and finding out what their graduation requirements are. And if you have questions, contact the local guidance counselor. If it comes down to it, we probably have a recruiter who works in that high school and knows the guidance counselor anyways, and can probably ask the guidance counselor about your child who's about to graduate and make sure they're good to go. Because we do that a lot for our future soldiers. We're trying to make sure they're going to graduate high school. So we're asking like, hey, do they complete all their high school requirements? Are they going to graduate on time? Most schools in this area are not going to graduate early. They're going to graduate about the same time, but it'll be virtually.
Correct, sir.
It'll be virtually.
Yep.
Working with you, and I just want to assure you, as you probably already know, that the Army is committed to helping soldiers and their families. So from here, we definitely want to help you. And if you contact me, I will follow up. And I assure you that we're going to do everything that we can to link you to the parents with your family. These are difficult times. And tough things happen to even the greatest people. So we want to be here for you, and please contact us and give us the opportunity to help you whichever way that you need. I am in the headquarters building here, and you can contact me at my phone number, which is 207-438-8514. And I'm happy to take your calls, very happy to try to engage and make sure that you get what you need. So I thank you, Colonel and Sergeant Major. What, you Sergeant Major?
Master
right?
Sergeant.
Master.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
bet.
Okay, so Mr. Love is fully in the seat now, as you saw. He's taken calls. He's been helping work through issues. He's got a great background in counseling, on working sharp issues at his previous assignments, on working children's CDC type issues, child development center type things. He's got a very diverse background in the military, and he's worked exceptional family member program issues in the past before. So, you know, family member issues, absolutely, absolutely. So let me just explain this transition. Okay, we currently, there are workforce statuses. If you are in a workforce status black, that means that the station is all working 100% virtual all the time, because the threat of COVID in that area is pretty high. Then there's a workforce status red. And the workforce status red is that by exception, you can go into the station and conduct a face-to-face action, but generally we're not utilizing the station that much, not very often at all. We're still working hard. Today, we had 4 stations in amber status. 4 stations in amber status. Bangor Station, Maine. We have Keene Station, New Hampshire. Several of those stations in the northern portion of Maine and the northwestern portion of New Hampshire that have smaller COVID impacts, they're looking right now at the conditions for how they could start utilizing their station again. How do they set up shift work? Do we have the right personal protective equipment? Do we have the masks? I mean, Sergeant Seisman's got a really cool mask. Frank, Mr. Love, has a little bit less high-speed mask. I got a real high-speed one because my wife made it for me. But you know, we're trying to get all that personal protective equipment in before they ever start using that station again. So they're going to get that all in, get that all prepped up, get that station being used, and those get into the next wave of other stations that have a lower risk. They're going to transition into amber, and they're going to be doing shift work. And if a person has a family member that has one of those, like they are extremely affected, that recruiter may not be able to go into the station because they'll put their family member at risk. Those extreme cases where I have a responsibility to care for a family member, or I have somebody that has a suppressed immune deficiency or immunosystem, you know, our station commanders are going to take that into consideration. If you're going into an amber station and you're about to start having folks coming into that station to do processing, then a person who has that extreme hardship in their home, they will have to continue teleworking. But the station commanders will work through each one of those. And then when eventually it gets back to green status, like then everybody's going to be coming back into work. Everybody's going to be getting back in the fight, on the ground, doing face-to-face actions. And this is for every, I think the number was 5,000 members of the population. Very, very small numbers of cases in the areas up in the north like Bangor, and the areas out north and west like Keene and Littleton. But we're going to deliberately do this thing called a reverse oil spot, working our way back in. And I think Boston, I mean, I was talking to the team today, Boston may not be normal until like 7 June. You know, that's where the state order has kind of been rescinded or brought back into place, and things are going back to more of a normal operations. But we'll be phasing our stations back in from black to red to amber, and then eventually to green. And it'll work its way on the periphery back into Boston, and then we'll, you know, when we whoop the heck out of this COVID thing, we'll be able to get back into working out of our stations on a more permanent basis. But yep, that's how we're going to utilize the stations. We're going to take into consideration the family members. We're going to take into consideration too, like the daycare. Daycare was closed for some states until May. You know, some of them, right. Daycare is a major concern for us. So if you're, do we have any other questions, Sergeant Sizemore?
No, sir.
Okay, so Fitness Friday, Yep, Summer's getting smoked on Fitness Friday, so that's a good thing. Do we have any more questions? Any more questions out there? Let's look through them. During this COVID crisis, we have to stay local. There are some exceptions I talked about earlier to go out to a family member's funeral, to go see a family member that's really sick, home, or do something else like that. That's an exception to policy. But if you want to take local leave, my company commanders are still the approval level for DA Form 31s where you stay local. I'm encouraging people to take leave right now because people are, you need to spend some time decompressing with your family and spend some time with your spouse and help out your kids, get them to cross that threshold for graduation, or get across graduation from 2nd grade and 4th grade in my case. You may want to take leave.
Right.
There's
definitely
nothing wrong with that.
No. It's a good time to do it. I mean, definitely a good time to do it. Unfortunately, the travel restrictions are in place, but spend the time with the family, have some quality time.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of good, a lot of good hiking, and so that's definitely news. What is going to happen nationally? The president is kind of working. Yeah, and that Together While Apart was a good example.
Yes.
Around 90 meals, and we're talking like boxes that are good for 14 days of meals. And that Together While Apart, if you know somebody in need, reach out to First Sergeant Yoon, and reach out to the battalion staff sergeant Merrill. We can they've extended it for another week. Additionally, there's a lot of examples of people helping out folks in need with crowdsourcing together some food, dishes, hardware, silverware, and other things like that. That's really, stations are kind of getting together. The in-progress review is what the station commanders do every day with the recruiters. And it's like, hey, how's the family? The first question should be, how are you doing and how's the family? And then they get into talking about, okay, who are you working right now? What are you doing with this guy? When you're talking to him next, when are we going to get paperwork? But one of the first questions is checking out the family. And when we do our video teleconferences, Sergeant Merrill and I have started doing battlefield circulation. We've been to 5 stations already. We're going to visit every one of the stations in the next 2 weeks for 1 hour. And we're seeing where everybody's at. And one of the things I'm looking for is, how's the house looking? How's everything going? What does your workspace look like? A major point of contention between our recruiters and the families right now is a recruiter has not been able to. I was very fortunate, Summer and I, we got a workspace set up because she needed some place to work with some of the things she does. And she's let me take over that area during this time period. So when I'm working from home, when I'm teleworking, I have a workspace. Sergeant had put together 10 great tips that he put on our webpage, our battalion webpage, to help people work out with their families. Like that is, you have to have a good workspace. It has to be dedicated. You have to have a schedule, and yet your family has to know your schedule. You have to communicate, and you have to give time to your family, like an hour a day during the day, and then of course getting done with work so you can do dinner together as a family. This is a great time to bond as a family, but one of the things that we're starting to do more soft contract processing. We're starting to have more requirements on us to get back into the swing of things as the military. So there has to be a happy medium and a good balance. And one of the ways to do that is follow Master Sergeant Had's top 10 tips. And Sergeant Had, if you could process and put that out on our webpage again, those top 10 tips that you did, the ones that you and I updated with the station commanders, let's get that information out there. Love, off to my right now, your left, he is offering feedback and he is offering support. We have individuals that can help. We're doing resiliency training with the station, and we're offering up the ability to help people become more resilient. Resiliency is a huge thing during this time. Like, we're going to be more resilient. Every time you go through a trial, you become more resilient on the far side. Like, I give the examples of my lessons learned from my time in Liberia during the Ebola crisis, where I saw an infectious disease that was much more dangerous from a death side, but harder to get, much less contagious. But I learned a lot there, and I put a lot of those notes about resiliency. A lot of it comes back to resiliency, and it comes back to planning, and it comes back to being ready, and it comes back to communicating. And when it comes back to leaders, you got to lead, and you got to take care of your families. And we ask all the leaders in the Patriot Battalion, reach out to your families and get that family readiness group structure in place to help them through any problems they might be having. because there's a lot of people. We've got several cases. This is another case of helping out families. Families that live outside this area are being affected with COVID. If you need to go on emergency leave to help take care of some business for them, or to go to, if they would pass away, we can work those emergency leaves. And that is something we can do for families. And that's something we will fast track. I'll make sure that gets through as quickly as possible. So that is a good question. Oh, next question. Thanks for that one. When do we expect Boston MEPS and the Southern companies to be back to normal operations? ASVABs, physicals, shippers, and in-person interviews. Do you want to take that one, Sergeant Merrill?
Sure.
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. So as you were talking about the whole reverse oil spot coming back in, Boston MEPS is in a, I guess we would call it a black county right now, because we're not doing any processing there. But as we come back online, hopefully, in the next 14 days or so with Boston MEPS, you're going to have to meet certain criteria, which is that 14-day attestation. You've got to be in quarantine 14 days before you go to the MEPS for anything. It's going to be tough. You're going to take that applicant's word that they actually, did the quarantine. So they'll complete the paperwork, we submit it to MEPS, and then, they're good to start, the process. So in a perfect world, we'd be looking at probably 14 May timeframe, 15 May timeframe that we could start using Boston MEPS again as far as processing goes. Shipping future soldiers, we'll actually have our first shipper next week out of Boston MEPS, approved by the Commanding General of USAREC.
Yeah, you'll see, I'll send the product out to the company commanders, and they'll get it down to the first sergeants of the current assessment for all of our workforce status. And like Sergeant Merrill was saying, Boston companies that are the company in the MEPS that is currently in black status, it affects a little bit of North Shore, a little bit of South Shore, and Boston. They'll be able to go to red around the middle of May. 7th through the 14th are the dates we're setting as targets to assess criteria, conditions, PPE, and the other things. And then you'll start seeing a little bit more normalcy out of the Boston MEPS. But I don't think the Boston MEPS goes back until they go into phase 2. I don't expect them to go into phase 2 until probably the June timeframe, which means you don't have to you don't have to fill out all the paperwork to make sure that 14 days quarantined by the applicant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'm gonna brief the plan that the staff has put together with the company commanders and first sergeant's help. I'm gonna brief the plan to the commander of the brigade on Friday. Littleton now working amber back towards southern Maine, New Hampshire, into Providence and in the southern parts of South Shore, and then working our way back into Boston and Providence to be back to normal. And that Boston MEPS, that Boston area is probably one of the last places to go back to normal.
Right.
And it may not be 7 June. And yes, it is a lot of extra work. I know recruiters are telling us, they're like, I want to go back to my office because this is painful. It's painful. Police stations aren't giving us records. Schools, guidance counselors are closed and are teleworking and don't have access to records. Everything is a lot harder for our recruiters to do. And we're tracking that. We're tracking that. And so we're going to safely transition back into utilizing our stations per what the CG put out and getting people processed back to the MEPS. But yes, it's going to be over the next several weeks. So as I've been saying for about a month, I put 7 through 11 May as that mark where we want to start getting processing again. We're going to be able to do that. And we're going to start with those 4 stations. We've got 7 other stations that will be in the following weeks, and then it'll just keep improving from there. So I think that should answer that question. When do we expect Boston MEPS and Southern companies to be back to normal or semi-normal operations? To work, because I could come in contact and I could infect them and they could literally pass away. Like we may be taking that into consideration for a long time. And there is the potential for a seasonal reflux or a seasonal resurgence of the COVID-19. So let's just all keep praying for better and more frequent testing, people to be developing immunities that is able to suppress COVID infection, and then getting the vaccination. Like the vaccination would be one of the big things that would allow this thing to restore back to normal. Okay, so I think we've answered all the questions. Sergeant Sizemore, any more questions out there?
No, sir.
No, huh? Hey, can I see the chat real quick? Do we have anything? Oh, there's a ACFT. Yeah, so the ACFT, I mentioned it last time. The ACFT
requirement.
Yeah, so people are going to start taking the APFT in May and June. Stations, it's on you guys to kind of set your times, get them done. Be safe, go outside. Don't go to the gym, go outside, keep everybody spaced. Social distancing is completely acceptable. We'll do a risk assessment and we'll make sure any PP that's required to, like, say, hold hold their feet. You know, like if you need a face shield or something like that, we will get those things in place so that you can execute the PT test safely. But the Army Physical, everybody needs to keep doing PT. Summer and I got in on Sergeant Had's Physical Fitness Friday, and we're working out together. And you know, use this time to work out with your kids, work out with your family. But recruiters gotta stay in shape. Future soldiers gotta stay in shape. Master Sergeant Had has a litany of things. We just got the Army CrossFit team, the Warrior Fitness team is what they're called. They sent us a list of workouts you can do. Work out for the APFT. It's a thing. It's still here. ACFT is delayed, so definitely that's kind of out there. Okay, Summer, do we have anything that you can think of from the spouse side before we close up today's session? Any of the live viewers? We still have, we started off with over 50. We're down to 26, so hopefully we've answered most people's questions. Live viewers, do you guys have any questions right now?
30-second delay.
30-second delay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Sergeant Had received his check.